So, hello everybody, everybody from Venezuela and all over the world. I'm Miguel Perez and I'm the TESOL Communications Coordinator. We're here today on a Sunday. Welcome you all to the first webinar series of 2016. Um, it's my pleasure also to welcome Andres Ramos, who is our Ventiso editor, and also Professor Maria Allegra, who is also joining this session. So thank you very much for coming, and I hope you enjoy the entire webinar. I'm going to now grant um, video and audio controls to Andres. Hello, Mary. Welcome.
Can you hear me? Okay, I just wait for confirmation. Okay, well, thank you, Miguel, for such a great work, and everybody, welcome to our first webinar 2016. And this is a good moment for us to share with our community of practice the different things we do, and in which context, of course, we've got Jennifer's presence and webinar today. As you know, TESOL, as an ELT community of practice of Venezuela, through its media team, has deployed different outlets, different ways how we teachers can communicate, network, develop, and participate. One of which is, of course, on our main network for specific interest groups, 4 SIGs, which are English for specific purposes, technology, special education, and teaching of English to young learners. Over 30 forums, 30 discussions are already open and active, and teachers are participating in them. These are the different links to such special interest groups so that you can join us, so that you can also be part of a conversation and enrich our community with your insights. Apart from the SIGs, apart from the webinars, let's remember that we've also got our newsletter. This newsletter is named Teachers Helping Teachers. It has already released its first issue in December, and next month we'll be releasing our second issue so that you can read it. It's full of practical tips, very lighthearted articles so that we can inspire each other to carry on and so that we can develop as professionals. So this is a link. You can read it. It is totally online and available to you, our community of practice, not only in Venezuela, but also worldwide. Then we've also got a reminder for our 2 major events this year. Our TESOL International Symposium, which will take place in Valencia at Universidad de Carabobo, University of Carabobo. It'll be from May 27th. And apart from the International Symposium, and thanks TESOL International for giving us the opportunity to organize it this year. We've got our 34th National Convention, Reflecting and Taking Actions in ELT. For further information on the National Convention and the International Symposium, you can go to this link. Last but not least, for those of you from other places in Venezuela which are not Valencia and from abroad who want to join us, this is information on hotels and places where you can stay to join us for these events. It is good if you're from abroad to check your country's travel advisory on Venezuela for those tips and complement them with this information. Now, without any further ado, it is an honor for us to introduce you to Jennifer Hirashiki, who earned her TEFL certification in Ohio University and her bachelor's degree in French literature and linguistics in Ohio University in 2005. She is also a master's TESOL from Azusa Pacific University. She has taught in France and Japan and back in the United States at different language centers, later becoming academic director, thereby recruiting, hiring, training teachers, and developing curriculum. Jennifer is an adjunct professor and program chair for Westcliff University Master of Teaching English as a Second Language and Other Language program. Her interests include curriculum development, educational technology, and action research. Now it is our distinct privilege, hi Jennifer, finally in person, to an extent or other, to grant you the floor. Please enlighten us, the floor is yours.
Online learning. One thing to remember is it's always good to have a backup plan, and my backup plan today was to wake up my husband and take his computer. So now that was how we got it. So now, without any other interruptions, hopefully, I want to first thank you all for this opportunity to present for Venezuela TESOL with this webinar. And I'm really looking forward to sharing some technology tools and ideas with you and hearing back from you as well to get to know more about your context as well. So the topic for today is the top 10 tech tools for teaching online. And I know that some of you may not teach solely online. You might teach in the classroom, tutoring, one-on-one, big groups. I know there's a wide variety of contexts. So while I was making this presentation, I wanted to keep that in mind and have some ideas for both teaching online, but also that you can take and teach in the traditional face-to-face classroom as well. So here are just a couple of the tools we'll be looking at. These are the top 10, and I don't know if you are familiar with any of them, but I'll be keeping an eye on the chat feature as well. So if you ever want to come out and comment on something, then go ahead and I'll be checking that. And today, the plan is to expose you to some new and free ideas that can transform online teaching by integrating a multi-layered technical approach. And the key word here is free, because isn't that the word that we all like as teachers? And I hope that no matter what your tech IQ is, I hope to provide some useful ideas or starting points for future lessons, maybe new things you'd like to try. And I want you to consider why you use technology. Is it for motivation with your students? Is it linked to pedagogy, or both? And how can you integrate your tech use seamlessly? How is it coming into your classroom, and how is it being used as a tool and very easy to flow and get done what you hope to accomplish? And finally, I know that it can be hard to keep up to date with new technology and apps, so I hope to introduce you to some new ideas that you don't need to spend time searching, that you won't need to think about, will this work or will it not? I'm hoping that I've taken that away, that step away, so you can implement these in your classroom. And I challenge you to choose one new app or tool that we go over in this session and try to put it to immediate use in your class. I wanted to start first with this nice wheel here, and hopefully you're familiar with the Bloom's Taxonomy, and I've always been a huge fan of having a window open with these verbs while I'm creating objectives as well. And then I came across this wonderful resource where I can see all of these nice verbs, these nice measurable verbs that are linked to activities and apps. And that being said, it's just a nice resource to have as you're planning or thinking about what you want to integrate. And I know that it's a little small on here, so I'll just kind of take you over a couple of them. If we look specifically at the blue box or the blue triangle there with evaluate, we can see some of the activities that are listed with critiquing, judgment, opinion, reporting, and hypothesis, survey. So all of these are those activities that we can do to evaluate. And then it's connected here. We can look and we see things like Skype and Google+. Those are communication, so maybe ways to state your opinion. If we look at, let's look at a different one. Over here with remember and understand in the green triangle, we have some activities like highlighting, bookmarking, blog, journaling, word processing, and these can be connected to Facebook even, Twitter, and what students don't like to use social media in class. And we also have ideas that maybe they could be opening a blog or writing about things to remember, how they understand them. So this is just a great resource for you, and I can pass this on to give you a little more clear view of this same chart later. And then here's the second one that's a little different format, but also has some other ideas that you can see. And specifically, we'll be going over Prezi, which you can see in the top left corner here, Google Docs or the Google Suite right next to it, and Skype down next to understanding. We'll look at Twitter and Skype as well. So it's just some ideas, and one thing I like to do is just look at one app a day or one app a week or something to see what might work for me, and keep those in mind as you know, our contexts change, our ideas change. We need to try something different, and I found that maybe looking at something once a week, doing some research once a week on a new app or tech tool can really add up in the long run. So moving on to the fun part, I'm going to just go over and give a brief overview of a couple different tools. And the first step is Prezi. And I'm checking over in the chat room. Is anyone familiar with Prezi? Has anyone used this before? I see a Y. This is great. We're probably all familiar with PowerPoint. This is the fun and new version of PowerPoint. I typically find it very easy and easy to make nice looking and attractive presentations. And some of the strengths are it has that ability to make things fun and new. It's kind of a way to avoid the rut of a PowerPoint, and it's a little less linear than PowerPoint. PowerPoint, you have the slides just go from one to the next to the next. This one can be really fun because it can go here and go here, and it's more of like a mind map almost, or following around. It's free for teachers and for students. You just sign up for an account, and if you have an account with a school district or university, you can actually make your presentations private. And if you don't, they will be shareable, but still it's a great way to keep track of your presentation. And it's very easy to put images and videos in there. You can just drag it. You can just add it in there, click, right-click, add it in. And I see that some people might say they feel dizzy when the presenter changes from one slide to another. I've heard that as well. I do try to make my presentations very, I guess, a little less crazy. I'm not having them go here, 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 here. I'm looking at how to make it a nice ride for the viewer as well. These can be saved online. for easy accessibility. I can save it to the cloud base of Prezi's website, and I can also download them as PDF files. I can download it as a portable Prezi, so I don't even need to have internet access to view my presentation on my computer. It makes for easy collaboration. You can share it with another person. You can work on a project together, and it's just overall it has a lot of great features. It is a little finicky. Sometimes you'll go crazy because it won't necessarily click on the right area, and that really depends on the day, I'd say. It takes a little bit of practice to get used to it, to figure out how you want it to look, how you want to design it. And, you know, even a simple one can look really great. It does have fewer editing features compared to PowerPoint. It does have some limitations with that. And I see, how can we download Prezi presentations? You can go into the editing part of your Prezi, and you can click share, I believe, and it gives you an option to download computer or download the PDF files. And continuing back with these limitations, you do have to pay to use the offline version and privacy settings unless you have an education account like the university or a public school district account. But to use the offline version, you always have to pay, which I guess it would be nice to be able to work on it if you didn't have access to internet, but then again, free versus paying. So I'll take the free version. And then, like we mentioned before, dizziness. You definitely have to make sure you're thinking of your audience and that. And I'm not sure you have to download or pay to download the presentation. I do not have a paying membership, and I've been able to download my presentation. So I'm not sure. Maybe there are different restrictions, but I haven't had a problem with that. And some ideas. How can you use this? Well, first of all, I teach online in a university context, and I use Prezi every single lesson. I create my presentation. It's easy to put into PDF form afterwards and send it to my students. And students also use it for their final presentations, over their final projects. They're able to submit that and have a nice way. It gives them an option between PowerPoint or Prezi. You can use it in traditional settings for book reports, for group projects. Again, the collaboration feature is great. And even with how-to speeches or different types of presentations in that format. I'm just taking a quick look. PowerPoint use. A lot of people still use PowerPoint. I never jumped on the PowerPoint bandwagon. I don't know, I always found it hard to make something look nice, and maybe that's the appeal with Prezi. I think it's very easy to make a nice looking presentation, and it's a little more interesting to look at sometimes for your students. If you're teaching younger learners, it can be a little more attractive, and it can be done easier, a little more easily. And oh great, so you do have the Edu account. That's great. Goodbye PowerPoint. Yeah, I can see it. You know, try it out. It's a great thing to have reference or have access to, and you can decide for yourself which you prefer. Our next tool that we'll be looking at is the Google Tools, so the Google Suite. And I think a lot of people have used Google Tools, whether it's Google Docs or surveys, Google Forms. And this is a great tool as well for bringing it into your classroom, whether your classroom is online or traditional face-to-face. The whole Google Suite gives you so many opportunities. First of all, you don't have to worry about getting millions of emails of student documents sent to you and trying to figure out which one is the most updated version. You have the cloud feature of being able to access that. You have the ability to create tests and surveys, save them, send them out regularly without having to redo and resave a new file necessarily, you have Google Forms right there. You can create your tests, some quizzes, some comprehension checks. You can also create your Google Forms. I don't know if you've tried Google Forms to do surveys, needs assessments, different types of information gathering techniques where both as a teacher, it's a great tool for me to do with students, but also for students to collect data for maybe a project or to get feedback from them. And yeah, the ability to turn in an assignment through Google, go through, you can see the different feedback if you're having students work together, edit one another's papers, you can see that. And one thing I wanted to mention is with those tests that you create, you can actually get another app called Flubaroo. And this one can actually grade your tests and give you test and scoring data. So it's very quick. It's a very convenient way to do those quick checks. Those maybe you're teaching about a book or an article and you want to get a check. You can make a quick quiz and go through and check that. And yeah, so we can see here you can embed images and videos onto a Google form. I'm just looking into the chat, and it's great for those quizzes. I've used it a lot to get data from other teachers or get feedback from other people I'm collaborating with as well as students. Some limitations are it takes some training. I still try to save it all the time. But it's nice that you won't have to worry about losing a document as easily as if you're using Word or another type of word processing system. And you do need to have a Google account, so for students and teachers alike. And it may take time to recreate or move your documents to Google. Sometimes there are formatting changes that occur when you upload a Word document to Google Docs. So those are some things to make note of. You might have to spend some time to do that. But ideas are endless. Recently, since I teach in an online class context, I actually put some Google Docs out. I paired students up and they worked together to fill in some notes based on the reading we did, and they were able to work together. I could watch everything they were doing. I was part of that. And then we could send each other all the documents that we had worked on to compile that information, and they could use it as a resource. Yeah, they collaborate in real time. So it's really nice to be a part of that. And it gives me a chance to be a part of their learning as well, because I can guide students in real time and kind of question and check what they're doing as they're completing it. And that is a challenge that we have in an online teaching context. Using Google Docs and Forms for peer editing, again, like I said, it gets rid of that transfer of a million files and it just puts it into one. You can have students and staff collaborate, and like I said, you have the Flubaroo app that can help you grade. So if you haven't seen everything that the suite provides, I suggest trying out a few things, checking it out, because you can use even the slides, Google Slides, which is their version of PowerPoint. Again, since it's shareable, it just takes that step that moves it to the next level. And it's very fun to try different things. I just made a Google form survey last night, and it's very useful. Our third one that we're looking at is Poll Everywhere. And it's always great to get some feedback or check to make sure your students are on track. And this one can both be used in the online classroom or the face-to-face classroom if you have a lot of students, you don't want to call anyone out. And it's very easy to use. If you go to the website, you can check it out. You can see the demos. And they have a free version for up to 25 poll takers. And that's per survey. So if you have like a different question, that is 25 per question. And it's, oh, I see a Socrative. We're going to get to that one soon. And we have the support. This can help with in your classroom if you want to bring your own device, but you can also do it in an online one, which is very fun because you can pull up the screen and see the results in real time. It makes for a great quick assessment, and it's anonymous, so it helps to not call anyone out or bring attention to someone that doesn't want the attention brought to them. Some of the limitations, though, the students need to use a phone or tablet. So if they're at home, if they have access to it, great. If they're in a classroom, they would need to bring that tool. And the free version doesn't analyze or store data. So if you're looking at long term or you want to have reference to that, it does have the limitation with the free version. And then with international users, they should use the web-based to avoid international texting, so you don't necessarily get hit with all those charges there. So great ideas for warm-up, review, exit activities, formative assessment. And I see a couple people commenting about Socrative and Kahoot, I think, and we definitely have those in here. It's great to try new things because students get used to a routine and then they get bored with it. So even if we can see some overlap between some of these tools, it's a new thing. It's a new adventure, new learning experience, and it's giving the students the ability to learn from this as well. Okay, moving right along, we have Zoom, which I guess I could compare it to either Google Hangouts or Skype. I prefer this one because it has, I guess because it has the ability to have breakout rooms, which I'll get to in a minute. So this is great for an online class format. You want to share your screen, you can share it. You want to teach a class, you can see all of your students' faces. It's very user-friendly, easy to set up, and there is a free version as well. And so first of all, you have all of your interactivity. You can share the control of the classroom. I'm going to call the Zoom room a classroom, and students can actually put things on your. So if you have a PowerPoint up on your screen, they can actually type into it. If you have a Word document, they can actually type into it, which makes it very interactive for an online class. And it's very great for groups. You can have, one person, you can have 15, 20 people, and you can scroll through and see your students' faces. One newer feature that they came out with is the ability to use breakout rooms, which is revolutionary for an online teacher. How do we get students to work in pairs? How do we try to avoid losing that lack of interactivity that comes with an online format? Well, you can pair students up. You can put them in groups, and you can get access. You can come in and watch them as well. So I can go in, I can see what this group is doing, I can leave, I can go in and see what this group is doing, and they can even call their teacher to the room if they have a question. So it's an excellent resource. It changes the game for online teaching. You have the annotation markers, you have screen control, and share screen abilities. There's also an option to record sessions, and that, now keep in mind, if you're recording during the breakout rooms, it's very boring because it doesn't actually record all the breakout rooms. It just shows the one room where either you are or no one is. But so it might look like you have an empty space of nothing. So I guess that would be one limitation there. The free version also has 40-minute session capability. So it will give you a 10-minute warning. You only have 10 minutes left, and then that's that. But it's a wonderful, simple, easy to set up tool. You can send an invitation through Gmail and put it in the calendar. You have your link, and It's very easy. There are some limitations, like I said. If you're videoing, recording that, then you won't be able to see the breakout sessions individually. You might run into some sound issues. Sometimes maybe the Mac connectivity might have issues with sound, but we've gotten through that before today, and you will again in the future. And like I said, there's only a 40-minute limitation. So some ideas for this one: webinars. They do have webinar capabilities, meetings, quick meetings with colleagues, group classes, and just even meeting with people. It's like it's even better than Skype sometimes. So it's very simple to use. And if there's one thing I urge you to take away from this one, I would say this is probably my best find of the past year and a half. All right, moving along. The next one would be Screencast, and that's at screencast.com. And this is really just taking a video of what you're looking at and speaking. So the great part of this is if your students need more feedback or more information about something, you don't have to actually get dressed up, so they don't need to see you on a video. You can just speak it. It's very easy, very quick. And there's a nice little feature. Once you download this tool, it comes at the top of your screen, and you can choose what part of your screen you're going to record. And then you can easily upload it onto the website when you have your account. And there is you can video up to 5 minutes of content. You can use this as a flipped classroom tool. You can use it for communication in online formats. And you can also create diversity and discussion boards, assignments, or presentations. So one thing that I really like about this is it can break up the routine or the monotony of different activities. So sometimes students are always having to type something maybe, or they always have to do the same type of presentation. This allows you to have a new style, something different to interact with. And they can show their planning by having 5 minutes to do their activity. I used it a lot with explaining assignments. That way I could show an example of an assignment without uploading the entire assignment for them to just copy. I kind of talked my way through it, so they weren't able to necessarily just copy the content, but they were able to see what I was talking about or referring to. And it's a nice way to get students to present. And if you are teaching online and you have a lot of students, it might be hard to get to all of them to do presentations in real time. So this kind of gives another option for presenting and adhering to time constraints. Some limitations are, well, there's a 5-minute cutoff with the free version. And some of the versions, this one here in particular, Screencast.com, is very intuitive. If you are tech savvy. If you are not, you might want to watch some demo lesson or demo videos that will help you with that. Sometimes it might take more training to use because students won't be as familiar with it. So if you want them to do a presentation with it, you would need them to learn how to use it. And so again, it might take some more training. And there are also space restrictions, how many you can upload. I haven't run into a problem, but it's something to keep in mind if you're using it all the time. Again, very fun, nice way to change up the game, kind of make things a little more lively again. And with the technology, again, sometimes it's hard to communicate. Oh, sorry about that. Sometimes it's hard to communicate and get your points across in written form only. And so this gives you that option to come across in a more personable style with your voice. Okay. The next one is Skype Classroom. And so this one I'm kind of referring to two parts of Skype. First of all, you have the traditional Skype, which is free, unlimited time, and I think we're all familiar with being able to chat or talk via Skype. However, there's another feature called Skype Classroom, and I'm checking the chat to see if anyone is familiar with Skype Classroom. Is there anyone? No. Okay. So this one is it's a platform to collaborate with other classrooms, find guest speakers, and take virtual field trips. Again, it can be used in an online context. It can also be used in a classroom context. And this is fun to do with kids. It's also fun to do if you are not close to a big city or close to things that you want to see. If you are in a EFL context and you want to show, encourage communication between your class and a class somewhere else, this is a great feature to use. And best of all, it's free and it's very easy to use. And I'll just talk about one way that I used it. I used it in a face-to-face context, but you could use it in an online context as well. You just have to plan with the technology a little bit. But I found I was teaching a group of young learners in a summer program, and they needed to read. They needed to work on reading. So I looked on there and I found an author, a kid's book author. And I looked up her book, I found it, and we purchased a class set, so about $5 a book, and we spent 3 weeks or 4 weeks reading it. At the end of those 3 or 4 weeks, we actually got to meet with the author via Skype Classroom, and she taught the class. She answered questions. She talked about the process of writing her book. They could ask the questions about why did you choose the name for the characters? Why didn't you do this? Why do you do this? What are you going to write next? And for those students, it was really exciting because I'm not an author, and they like me well enough, but it's kind of fun to see someone who's not your teacher. And I see that there are some connectivity issues that might be hard. I still wouldn't give up on that. You might be able to do something where you can have them record it and send it to you. It still might be a good resource for giving some sort of connection to another, like a person that ties in with your class or something. So I definitely can understand some of the challenges with connectivity. Again, with some of these strengths, there are a variety of subjects and topics to choose from. Anything from business to oceanography to authors to classes, the mystery class, where you have one class of students that you team up with, and your students have to try to guess where the other class is by asking questions. It's used by you sign up for a time slot with that person. So you can search Google Skype Classroom. You see, I see this author. I click on her name for more information, and I can schedule an appointment, and then you make a call like a regular Skype. You just have to set up the time in advance. And I found that the people who are on there are very adaptable. They're very flexible. I think the woman that I met with was in Germany, and so we had to pick a time that wasn't too late for her, but it was still like 10 p.m., and she was more than willing to come in during her evening time and talk to our students in the afternoon in California. And yeah, it really depends on, there's so many people available, but that if one person doesn't work, there's probably a chance that someone else might be interested or might be available during the time that you would need. I can also provide the links to these different things, these different tools and apps afterwards, so I'll get those to you so you can check through them. And another great feature of this is it's searchable by age, topic, and language. What language do you want it to be in? What age do you want it to be applicable for? And like I said, the topic is very engaging. You get a real authentic experience, and you can have your students go through something that they might not have the ability to do otherwise. Some limitations are the time differences, time zones that make scheduling challenging, but there's so many people on Skype Classroom that you could probably get through that. You do need speakers, a bigger screen, and any necessary connectors. So if you're playing, if you have one screen and you're playing it to your class, or just depending on where your setup is, you need to really be sure to have all the necessary tools to connect and make sure that goes smoothly. So some ideas, like I said, there's the mystery class. Like there's a third grade class in California and a third grade class in Venezuela. They have to guess, ask questions. Well, what's the weather like there now? Are you north or south of the equator? Are you here? Are you here? Are you there? And they can really pinpoint, and the first team who guesses correctly, or the first class who guesses where the other one is from, can win or something. But it's very fun to get those questions out. You can do author book reports, similar to what I talked about. And it just ties in with the topic. Sometimes you need that extra thing to top off your class. And if you do have any questions, please write those down, because I can go through and answer those as well at the end. For instance, it's very early in the morning. Yes, so it's early here, but look, I was flexible. I came in, not a problem. So you'll see a lot of flexible people who genuinely want to share their knowledge and information with students and other people. Next one, and I'm not sure if someone wants to, I know I had a late start, so I'm going to try to speed through this, but social media, great tool for teachers, great tool for students. And I personally use this as my professional development. Tons of information. You can access it anywhere. I'm talking Pinterest and Twitter primarily. They are wonderful tools for teachers. You don't have to carry around your paper files. You can save them and feel a little more organized as well, at least. And you can share and connect, share resources with colleagues, connect with colleagues. And you find so many great worksheets, tools, videos, references. So many things are there. And I can even find different professional development articles that I read, and I can have a sense of I'm not alone, or here's my community. And it's a very great professional learning network where you can have the ability to be part of something bigger. You can work with people around the world, and this is just for the teacher aspect. For students, you have even more ideas to either have a portfolio or having a project where I know a teacher who decided her class was reading a book, and she made the students come up with a Pinterest page for one of the characters of the book, and then they had to present on why those pins would be on that character's page. If you are not familiar with it, it is or using it as a teaching tool. Now, I'm not sure if that's a reference to how to use it or just using it to teach. I would say this is more of a professional development tool or organizational tool. or a presentation kind of saving tool. I wouldn't necessarily go into the classroom and say, today we're going to learn about Pinterest. I think a lot of students would be happy, but it probably isn't going to reach our objectives there. And it's just, let's see, give some examples. Oh, well, later I can send the link to my own Pinterest page where I have it organized according to the ages I teach, the topics I might teach, different presentations I've made, and it's very great to have access to that. Twitter, again, a lot of information. If you follow different educators, it's a great community to be a part of that you can grow from. You can find good resources from that you could use in your classroom or use professionally. As I say how great both of these are for teacher development and even for student use, there is a lot of information and that can be very overwhelming, distractive, and addictive. It's very easy to just get sucked in and go through and look and see, oh, I'm going to look at this, I'm going to look at this, and go here, and go here, and go here. And so that is one thing to take into consideration. You might want to set boundaries or set rules for yourself or for your students if they're using it, and think about how much time you want to spend on here. I agree with that comment here with Pinterest digital portfolios. Definitely easier to organize than Tumblr, and you can have so many boards and it can be very, very clean and very organized. Some ideas to use this with: you can showcase your student work. What do students want to show? They can show their best. They can upload a project to there or a report. They can have their own folder and pin where you have share resources. You could have contests on there. And again, organizing, brainstorming for ideas for your own classroom experience is invaluable with these tools. I'm glad to see that some of you are really familiar with some of these tools, so that's exciting. And now we're getting to some of your favorite ones, I think. We're down to the last two that we're going to go over. We have Socrative, and this one is, I think I've seen a couple of you who are familiar with it. It's also an app, so you can use it as an app or the website. It's easy to set up and use. Basically, the teacher, you create an account, you are given a classroom code, and then students use that code to access quizzes, polls, exit tickets, etc. Whatever idea that you want to put in there. It works on computers or smart devices. It increases engagement because it's integrating that technology in a more meaningful way. It's getting students involved. It's getting them excited to participate, and it can be a nice little quick fun thing to do at the end of class, or maybe at the beginning you do something quick. And some limitations though: it does require a computer, smart device, or bring your own device classroom. The apps can crash sometimes, and the teacher has to enter all the information onto the site. So it does take a little bit of time to navigate, to figure out, plan what you're going to put in. But this is a perfect example of a tool that if you put the time in, it really pays off from what you get for it. You can make review quizzes. You can, again, use it for exit tickets, quick polls. Students love to have phones out. They love to use their phones or something, so it's very easy. It's nice to be able to do that. There's the space race option, so as a fun classroom review, you can have teams race against each other. And then there's also a polling option for those quick checks. So again, like Poll Everywhere, there are some similarities in what you can do. However, like I said, it's great to change things up, to really give a new dynamic to the classroom. And that actually leads us into our last one here, which is Kahoot. And are you familiar with Kahoot? Give me a Y or an N in the chat. Okay, we've got one yes, a no, no. So Kahoot is, I would put it in the same class as Socrative. It has a couple more limitations. For example, well, first we'll start with the strengths. It can be used as a formative assessment. It's very great for that. It supports, again, the bring your own device activities. You can do it in an online or in-class room context. It's very fun. It's very loud. It's very crazy, and it's very great for review. However, it does take a little more effort to create the quizzes. It takes some time. There's not any ability to track student growth. So unlike Socrative, where you can track the growth or the improvement, you can track the data, Kahoot doesn't give you that ability. It's a little harder for slower processors because there's the music involved. And if you're familiar with it, you know the music, which there's only one song and it gets very repetitive. It's very loud. But students like it. It keeps them focused, right? No side conversations if they're listening to that loud music. It is limited to multiple choice questions. So you have to think about your planning with that a little more. And it takes a little more time. With this one, it's the screen is up. You're using the main screen, and students look at the main screen and then connect it their choice with their own phone or device. So there are differences, but this one I'd say students really love, especially teenagers, younger learners. This is very fun for them. You can even have them create their own quizzes. You can have class or team competitions. You can have a quiz review. You know, quiz reviews might not be very exciting, but with this, they're a little more exciting. And you can definitely do this in an online context because you get a code and all the students can sign up as they're on their computers, and it shows the results on the main shared screen. So it definitely has some capabilities of adding a fun dynamic to an online or in-face class dynamic. And again, it just keeps things fresh. It keeps students on their toes, and it's very fun to learn a new type of technology. So those are my top 10, and I'm actually going to go back to that first screen so you can see all those different ones we spoke about. And I hope that you've gotten a little bit of an introduction to some of these, or if you're already familiar with most of them, sorry for the repetition, but I hope that there was something in here that piqued your interest, that made you excited to try something new or see how it would work. And with all technology, sometimes it's not going to work the way we anticipate. Sometimes it's going to take some adjustments, and this is no different with technology. But once you have a couple solid base technology tools, you can really create a great dynamic in an online format, or as well as an face-to-face in-person format. These tools can really give that extra layer to your class, and I hope you find one and try it out very soon. So I think if we wanted to open it to questions real quick, or I'm not sure what happens now. Miguel? And if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat. I'm checking that out now too. I see a lot of typing happening. And I can go through, I'll go through and send the links, or I'll make a list of links, and I'll compile some of those tools or some of the documents I use, so they can be accessible for that. I believe you can use Skype Classroom with your regular Skype account. However, because I had my Skype account a very long time ago, like I got it when it first came out, I did have to open a second one. So I guess it depends on when you got your Skype account, but I think I just made mine the same. So it's the same one. I think I just had to update it. Oh, great question. Do I have a limit for apps in a single course for management purposes? It's a hard, there's not really a set number. I would say the importance is on the quality versus the quantity. So if a teacher is very comfortable with using different technology, different apps, and the students have that as well, then there's not the time that's needed to go between and kind of get on track or learn how to use them. I think that there is the potential to use many apps in a single course. However, things might go wrong, so it's always good to have a backup plan. Also, you don't want it to get, you don't want it to just, you want to make sure what you're using is the best way to convey that information, to make sure that's the best way the students are learning that information. So if an app is indeed the thing that you determine is the best way for the students to learn, then by all means use it. But think about, like anything else, we wouldn't use our textbook for the entire class necessarily. We might do textbook page 1 and then go to this and then come over here. The same goes for the apps. You might put it down, come back to it, go somewhere else, do this. So I would say maybe there's nothing wrong with using 1. There's nothing wrong with using 5 in one class, as long as you can control how it's working and you don't have that wasted time of moving from app to app. Using the QR codes in the classroom. Now, I haven't actually used them. There's another, not necessarily the QR codes, but there's another app called Erasma. Let's type that down here. And I've seen it used in the classroom, and that one is really cool because you can actually, instead of the QR codes, it's a picture. And so you can sign up for the account and say, I want to take a picture of this Zoom image on the screen right now. And I connect it to the Zoom demo. That means if you have an Erasma account, you can wave your sensor over that Zoom image, and then it automatically connects to that demo. And I would say that's kind of the new QR code kind of tool. It's kind of fun. I've seen presentations. I've seen English teachers use it with books. So maybe if the title of their book or the picture on the front of their book, if the students wave their sensor over it on their phone, then they can actually lead to a video about the book or something along those lines. So it's very, it has a lot of fun activities you can do with it. And I know that a lot of teachers have fun with that. And it's once you have it set up, it's very easy to go. But as far as QR codes, I haven't really used too many of them. But I have tried Orasma, and it's pretty fun, and students tend to like it as well. It can make homework a little more fun too. um, I can't actually see the bottom of this. Oh, here we go. When working with students across generations, countries, how much do you devote to tutoring, introducing the tools for a course? Great question. I actually used to work in a school that had ages 16 through 75, and they would all be mixed in the same classes. And we had iPads and iLab classes, computer classes. Yes, it's very, it's very interesting because we had iPad classes where each student in certain classes would get one iPad. And with a 16-year-old, it's very quick. They're on the iPad and it is just done. And you're like, open the note-taking feature, and they're there. And you have a 75-year-old man who's never seen an iPad before. It does add a new element to knowing how to work across the generations. That being said, different countries as well have different access to technology and different comfort levels with technology. So that's where it comes into play with training your class. So maybe you're only using one type of technology, one app, but you're teaching your students how to use that. And maybe you only use that one app for 5 weeks until they're familiar with it, but they've got it after that. Then you can maybe introduce another one, introduce something else different after that one. But really, it's making sure that you're not leaving anyone out, whether by going too slowly or going too quickly. You want to make sure that you're able to give all your students the same access to that learning opportunity. And that really goes on thinking about their needs, what their expectations and abilities are. And that does come into play a lot with technology and just the comfort level of technology among different age groups and country demographics. Okay, we got a question over here related to polls and surveys. Can I assess a student using quantitative and qualitative variables or questions at the same time as Socrative? Does Socrative do the work? So Socrative does give you the data, I believe, for both quantitative and qualitative variables. It does move it into, I believe, like a spreadsheet type of form, and you can get that data from there. Now, someone else might be better to answer that if you're a real Socrative fan and use it often. I've used it sometimes, but I haven't used it for long-term purposes. I've used it more as an exit ticket and just kind of gathered that information on a smaller scale. But I believe you can move it to it does go into the data collection of a Excel sheet or something like that, and you can get that information. Okay, and I guess we have our final question if anyone has one. Flickr, I have not. I'm writing that down right now because that sounds very interesting. There are just so many tech tools out there that even if we spend every day looking at them, it's really hard to navigate through them all and see what fits our contexts. I'll definitely have to research that one. Now I'm interested in it. Any last questions? Oh yes, I will send that. I'll compile that, the links and the wheel pictures as well. And I'll also put a link to my Pinterest page, my personal or professional one. And you can connect with me on there as well and see some of the resources. Thank you very much for inviting me to come and present today. It was very exciting. Sorry again for the volume issues in the beginning. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we would like to thank Jennifer for setting some time apart for us and delivering this webinar. I'm sure all of us enjoyed every single bit of it, and I'm sure we all are going to try these tools. I mean, some of them we knew about, but some of us we didn't, and I'm sure we're going to be exploring them. Okay, now we're going to go again on to announcements. Okay, let me just go back over here. Okay, so once again, we have our national convention in May. We'll have our first TESOL International Symposium as well. So make sure you register. We right now have the advanced registration. Make sure you take a list and save some money as well. As Andres said at the beginning, we also have a list of hotels we would like you to have a look at. There are many of those hotels, so you can also research about that. Alright, thank you everybody. Thank you Miguel for attending the webinar. There's going to be a recording of this webinar available on our YouTube channel. We will be posting this link hopefully at the beginning of next week by Monday or Tuesday. So if you have missed it, if you didn't hear some part of it, you still have the chance to listen to it again and watch it again starting from Tuesday on. So once again, thank you very much to Jennifer, and thank you everybody else who joined this session.